So, topic, individual pilot. Done this for about 33 years. Did it for the Air Force. Now I'm doing it for QANTAS. That's given me a perspective to have a think about what makes a good individual pilot. The things I'm going to list today are what the best of them do all the time. Most of pilots I know do most of these things. I want this to be a bit of a love letter to you, a pilot in QANTAS, a bit of a bravo, well done. And for the non-pilots, it'll be an insight into what's going on inside the head of that bloke you see at the airport in the silly hat. Let's get on with it.
Hi, I'm Marty. I flew these with these. I fly these with them. Got a wife, kids, play golf, band, happy life, and then Corona. It's a drag, but you're not alone. Have a laugh with me on...
As always, these are my opinions, but well-founded ones and gained from experience over 3 decades. If I say he, I mean she, and vice versa. And finally, I'm only talking about the individual pilot as they present on the flight deck. Home life, away from work, that's your business and a completely another matter. The pilot, the individual pilot as they present on the flight deck, is a minor miracle. They are an amazing human being. They're an extremely smart person that is able to subjugate their own personal desires for a greater good. They're respectful, communicator, they're brave, they follow, they lead, they own situations, they're problem solvers, they're team players. They can apply experience, discipline, training, and a large dose of common sense. They work in a fluid environment that sometimes is black and white, but other times is very subtle. They're unforgiving of incompetence, and they're unforgiving of neglect, to produce repeatable results in an extremely high pressure environment. And it doesn't happen overnight. That individual's part of a team, that team is part of a culture, and that culture is part of a 100-year history. The number one job of a pilot, the number one quality of the individual has to be he can fly the aircraft, she can fly the aircraft. In the challenging environment of a flight deck that can sometimes get really chaotic, your eye can come off the ball. The best pilots, the best individual pilots, never do this. They are always, at some point in their mind, flying the aircraft. No matter what happens, it remains their primary focus, their number one priority. Flying the aircraft is in their blood. Only a pilot understands that in the fluid, sometimes overwhelming and chaotic place of a flight deck, this is sometimes harder to do than to say, and the cost of getting it wrong is unthinkable. The individual pilot will always ensure someone, him, her, or his peer, is flying the aircraft. Flying the aircraft also means hands and feet. Although in airline flying it's only probably 5% of the game, it's still an important part. The best of them have good spatial awareness, situational awareness, operational awareness, and they project that awareness into the potential of the future. Fly the aircraft. I've called this series The Honest Pilot, and it is my number one trait that I see in the best of pilots. Honest with yourself, honest with the person sitting next to you. On the flight deck, there is absolutely no place for anything other than brutal truth and honesty in an operational sense. For me, it's my sacred place. It's this quality of the flight deck and of pilots that I value incredibly. The cost of not being honest in that place, doing that job, is unthinkable. Dishonesty on a flight deck will cost lives, and that is not an exaggeration. The best pilots are honest with everyone they work with, and most of all, honest with themselves. An honest pilot is empowered by this. The truth validates what he knows, what he doesn't know, what he can do, what he can't do. An honest pilot has no problem admitting their mistakes because they know it makes them stronger as a pilot, makes the team stronger, makes the entire operation stronger. Honesty, my number one quality for a good pilot. Hello. The best individual pilots are amazing communicators. They know that communication's not only words, it's non-verbal. It's what you don't say. They understand that what you do say is vitally important. Every word on a flight deck matters. Everything you do matters. They're able to project a message effectively, and they're able to receive a message effectively. Listening, man, that is more than half the battle in communicating. The best individual communicators know when to speak up. They know when to get loud. You never have to get loud. The best communicators understand that they're going to work better and come up with better results as a team than as an individual, and as a result, the best individuals share and receive. They value information. They value projecting information and receiving information. Communication, so vital. The best pilots have a knack for being able to turn up to work with their heads 100% in the game. Mentally ready, physically ready. That takes some doing, and it's important. They need to be ready. Because the truth is, 10 minutes after signing on and after taxing out, they could be facing the biggest catastrophic event of their lives, with hundreds of people's lives in their hands, and they better be on their A game. The best pilots have a knack of being able to turn up ready for that every single day of their working life. Think about how hard that actually is. It's so hard that when I was in the Air Force, we used to have a term called joker card. When you'd had too much terps the night before or not enough sleep, you could play your joker card, no questions asked, and you wouldn't turn up to work. They thought that it was so important that you be ready for that event on that day when it happens. Don't bother turning up if you're not. The best pilots have a knack of being able to do that. Year in, year out. They're not robots. It's incredible that they do that, and it takes enormous self-discipline. They may look like middle-aged old men, but trust me, they are mental giants. And this comes at some cost, to compartmentalise work from home life. And the cost doesn't come from the work life. That's a topic for another video. The individual pilot understands the art of aviation. They understand the physical act. They get that this thing's only been around for about 100 years. We're still breaking new ground as we go. 40 years ago we had navigators. 20 years ago we had engineers. 10 years ago cockpit resource management was a dirty word. We are at the cutting edge of a new thing. It's only been around for a century. They get the importance of checklists. They understand that every single rule, every single standard operating procedure has been written in blood. There is a reason we pay attention at certain phases of flight. They understand that there are dangers out there. They understand that to avoid those dangers, they need to act, think, do certain things. They understand that it's not a race, it's a marathon. They understand that it takes courage not to be flashy. They understand that safety is inviolate, non-negotiable. They understand their place in the team and the importance of the team. They're realistic with themselves and they're realistic with others. They're only interested in real-world results, what we can do today with this aircraft and these possibilities. They understand that they've got to keep their eye on the big picture while managing the micro part of the picture. Macro to micro, working in time, working in energy, working in possibilities, working in solutions, in a fluid, rapidly changing environment. And you can't afford to pull over and have a think. The only jobs I can compare it to is something like a stock market trader or a croupier at the casino, maybe a race car driver or a surgeon working in an operating theatre. It's time in motion with something at stake. And the individuals that get the art of aviation, they're the ones you want to fly with. They're the ones that are the best. One of my best mates calls pilots difference engines, and I think he's right. Our job is to see what is and what could be, what's desirable, what's not desirable, what we can do, what we can't. Pilots, the best of them, are able to use teamwork, their experience, their training, their view, their perspective to drag all these elements in and use their judgment to see the possibilities and choose the one that's most desirable. They do all this on the fly and sometimes without notice. It's amazing to watch, and the best of them are good at it. This applies to, I'm 5 knots off airspeed, I've got to fix it, let's get onto it. Or it can apply to, I'm thinking of diverting into Adelaide with a sick passenger. The best ones make it look easy, but don't be fooled. They're working hard. They're pedalling very hard beneath the surface like a duck. But the best ones make it look easy. The best pilots are motivated, and it's an internal motivation. No one's pushing them. Sure, they've got to do 3 or 4 simulators a year, EPs, medical, all the rest, but there's an internal self-motivation. You don't just fall into this job, and you certainly don't do 40 years in this job without a massive amount of self-starting. The best pilots are motivated so much that when they're not being watched, they do exactly the same job as when they're being watched. And this is what you call being a professional. They're filled with an innate desire to improve. Whether it's a captain watching a second officer fly a new procedure and learning from him, or a young guy learning from the old bowls. They look and they learn so that they can improve. Every day's a school day. The best pilots are also confident. They've developed over time a track record of success. They know they've come out of hard situations on top before and know they're going to do it again. There's no doubt about that, because on a flight deck, on an aeroplane, there is no other option than to come up with a solution. Now, most days that's easy. It's A to B, walk in the park. But on those days when things go south, they have a confidence, the best ones. Everything's going to come up smelling roses. But just by engaging in a job like this, something so complicated, so hard to do well, of course, every now and then, you're going to fail. You're not going to come up with the optimum solution. You're not going to get the desired result. When they fail, they have a massive positive attitude to that. They learn from it. They have a realistic attitude to coming back from it, and it makes them stronger. They treat themselves in that manner, and they treat others that fail in that manner. When pilots fail, whether it's their fault or not, the real mettle of a guy, the real mettle of a good pilot, the really good individual, is not the hole that he digs himself, it's how he gets out of that hole. It's how he rolls with the punches. For me, the best exemplar of this confidence is the confidence to say, today I'm not sure, today I don't know, today I need to phone a friend and get some help. To say I don't know as a pilot in an airline is not to be feared. It's in fact to be respected. It means the guy's paying attention, he's honest, he's confident enough to say that. He expects to be right, he is normally right, and so when it comes up against a brick wall where he doesn't know what to do, he is able to be wrong. He's able to say, I need help. So many times when things get hard, you'll hear the pilots say to each other, man, this is just like a simulator. And what they're saying to each other is, we're going to get through this. Yes, it's not going well at the moment, but we're going to put in that process, that motion of events that we're used to succeeding with, that problem-solving model, and we're going to come up trumps. And what do you know they do? Motivated, confident failures. Look at that. It's a granite brick wall. What's that got to do with flying? It has integrity. Integrity is a word that really sums up one of the highest qualities of the best aviators. Integrity, the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles, the state of being whole and undivided, the condition of being unified or sound in construction, internal consistency or lack of corruption. I couldn't say it better. The best pilots value integrity, integrity of information, integrity in their own operation, integrity of results. They are the personification of the granite wall. They are the personification of a line in the sand. They are an agent of inviolate safety. The buck stops with them. Nothing is getting through my brick wall, my operation, my personal set of standards. When you are on my flight today, you will be okay. You shall not pass is what Gandalf said, and I reckon he would have made a great captain. Integrity. The individual pilot is respectful. They are respectful of each other. They are respectful of the job. They respect how quickly it can snowball. They respect the responsibility that they have been put in charge of so many lives. They respect that this job can be very dangerous. They understand that this job is easy to do badly, but extremely hard to do well. The individual pilot is disciplined. This starts with just wearing the uniform. It is a message to others that they are ready, up to the job right now, identifiable as being the person doing the job. They are disciplined with every word, action and decision, and they understand that this is a choice of discipline, that all these things matter in this pressure cooker travelling at 1,000 kilometres an hour with hundreds of lives down the back. They are disciplined enough to embrace a safety culture. They are disciplined enough to comply with standardisation. They are disciplined enough to be careful about distracting themselves and distracting the attention of the team. They are disciplined enough to, hand on their heart, know whether something's been done or not. Something's right or wrong. Something's the solution or not. The individual can be the leader or the individual can be a follower. And they can be both of these things on the same day, in fact on the very same leg. They are able to be a chameleon, but a chameleon that ironically doesn't change its own stripes. And it can do all this from all ranks. The traditional ideal of an airline pilot, an airline captain, as an individual is a steely-eyed, square-jawed, looking into the horizon, massive ego, nothing concerns him. The reality is so different, and the best ones are so different. The best individual pilots that I've seen are extremely humble, and the job makes you humble. It knocks the bullshit out of you. There's no place on a flight deck for a large ego. It gets in the way. Of course, I've got ego, but when I step onto that flight deck, I don't allow it to enter my operation. With many guys, myself included, as I step onto that flight deck, my personality goes through a slight change. I do curtail myself mentally. I become a slightly different person. And you do end up having quite a chameleon-like nature in some respects. You've got to meet a complete stranger and go from a cold start and immediately work with him in an extremely demanding environment and produce great results. That doesn't happen in many other workplaces. to do it, you need both intelligence. Most pilots I know are way above the average intelligence, but just as much you need emotional intelligence. And to have the combo of the two is frightening. Most of the best that have both those could have been doctors, lawyers, judges, superstars, and yet they chose to do this. The swaggering, loose guy or girl full of bravado that's bragging about their latest thing they did in an aeroplane. Don't buy it, don't believe it, they are full of it. The best don't carry on with that stuff. The individual is vigilant, they have their eye on the ball. They understand that better men than you have come unstuck doing this job, and they let this inform their vigilance, their attention portioning, and they know when to ramp it up and when to relax it. The individual models themselves on the best and they learn from the worst. The individual knows the angles. The best way I can describe and sum up the vigilance required to be the best individual pilot you can be is the advice I got from a guy that had done 35 years as captain. I asked him what he did over those 35 years to be successful, to not hurt anyone. He thought about it a long time, over the whole of dinner. At the end, he said, yeah, I've got my answer. He said something I'm never going to forget. He said, it's your fault. I didn't understand at first. I'm sitting there going, what? It's my fault? And he goes, it's your fault. And what he meant is that it didn't matter. When you are there and it's on your watch, it is your fault. You shoulder that responsibility. You own the responsibility of everything that happens on your watch, whether it's your fault or not, whether you overlooked it or not, whether it was controllable or not. That's a big ask, but it's what the job is. The individual is comfortable in the upper parts of the stress curve. They're comfortable in the centre, but they can manage being up the right-hand side. They make it look easy whilst knowing it's not, and they enjoy this incongruity. The best pilots are practical. They're trustful, but with one eye open. They're healthy cynics, a bird in the hand, a we'll see sort of attitude, a forgive but don't forget. They measure with a micrometer, but then they cut with an axe. They are only interested in achieving what we can achieve today in this aircraft, in the real world. And along with that, naturally, every time goes an amazing sense of humour. It doesn't matter whether the weather's crap, whether the aircraft's got problems, whether the crew are upset, whether their home life is all over the place, whether they're tired, whether the passengers are causing delays and problems. They still produce the same output. They're dependable, they're repeatable, and they're consistent. They are agents of excellence. Always, day in and day out, 70 legs a month, 900 hours a year, for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. They are the opening batsman for the Australian cricket side. They're not worried about being flashy. They just want to put a straight bat forward and take the shine off the ball. They are the Toyota Camry. Solid, practical, dependable, repeatable, consistent. I think you get the idea. The individual is self-aware. They know their own strengths and weaknesses. They know where they can learn and where they can teach. They know how they will react, how others will react to them. They know how they communicate. They know how others communicate to them. They know how they deal with failure and criticism. They know how they deal with success and how to achieve it. This sounds easy, but when it comes to the crunch, in the crucible of a decision that has gravitas of people's lives, it takes a very special individual to have the backbone to execute yes, go, no, stop, and to do it with enormous pressure. All of these things
allow, qualify, validate, empower the individual pilot to execute airmanship, the safe and efficient operation of an aircraft for a goal. It also allows them to be part of a team, and that'll be the subject of my next video. The individual pilot. I hope you enjoyed it. All of those qualities, most of them in most pilots, all of them in the best pilots, make you, aviator, a formidable human being in your workplace, on the flight deck. Be very careful how you wield those capabilities. But all of those things make you the person to sit in the seat today, tonight, now, in this situation. If not you, who? The very last quality of the best of them that I've seen, and it's hard to talk about, is the sense of duty to the people that we carry around. It's the part of the job that catches you by surprise, and it waxes and wanes over an entire career. But if it ever does get into that waning phase, when you're ever questioning your sense of duty and your sense of worth in this job as an individual pilot, as the passengers disembark, get that checklist finished nice and quick, stand at the door and look into the eyes of all those people who are getting off your aircraft. All those people who trusted you. It'll be a shot in the arm. Cheers.
There's a new dog in my neighborhood, running up and down, looking for a friend.
Yeah, that'll do.